Hello again, everybody. Today we're talking about how to use Zapier with Gigasheet, both to connect it to other tools and how to automate Gigasheet workflows. So Zapier is a no-code platform on which hundreds of different SaaS applications have built integrations. And Gigasheet has recently released our own Zapier app, which have a number of triggers and actions now available to integrate into your Zapier workflow. You can do things like when a new file is added to a folder in Dropbox, upload it to Gigasheet and do a VLOOKUP from an existing sheet. And we see that it recommends a workflow of when a new file is in Dropbox, upload the file into Gigasheet, and then do a cross-file VLOOKUP. Very standard workflow. Today we're going to go through an end-to-end example of what a Zapier workflow looks like. So the idea behind this is I routinely get in sheets of either companies or contacts. I already have a primary directory that I maintain of all companies and all contacts and their respective sheets in Gigasheet. And I'd like to upload the latest sheet of either contacts or companies. I want to enrich those rows using the built-in RevenueBase enrichment. Then I want to append those rows to the correct sheet, be it contacts or companies. So I've built a Zap that does this. You'll see that I start with this monitor folder for new sheet and Gigasheet trigger. In Zapier, a trigger is something that initiates the workflow. It's the initiating event that kicks off the workflow. And if you want to use Gigasheet as a trigger, you can see that there's, new column, when a new column is added, when a new folder is added, when a new sheet is added. In this case, I'm saying when a new sheet is added to this particular folder, this all info folder. You can see that I've named this all info. When a new sheet is added to that folder, kick off this workflow. And what I've done is added some logic here in the paths. So there's two different paths that this can take. It can either be new company data or new contact data. And what I'm using is the file name. I'm using the file name to perform this logic. So when this Zap gets published, Zapier is going to monitor my chosen Gigasheet folder and execute this workflow based on this logic. And it's going to look at the file name contains, in this case, the word companies, or the file name contains the word contact. There's a lot of different ways that we could have done this. We could have used the data within the file, for example. But in this case, because I know that the files coming in always have the same name structure, I'm using the name to work on the logic going forward. So the first step for both is it's going to run a RevenueBase enrichment. Gigasheet has recently partnered with RevenueBase to allow for RevenueBase enrichments without needing an API key, which is pretty great. You pass RevenueBase an email address or a LinkedIn URL, and RevenueBase will return 25 or so data points of detailed marketing specific insights for use by sales and marketing professionals. This is actually so new that we have not added this particular action to the Zap as of the filming of this video. Hopefully by the time you watch it, it is in the Zap, but for right now, what I'm actually doing is I'm using the Gigasheet API to make the call. The Gigasheet API is fully documented, and we'll put the link in the video description, but I'm actually using this enrich data on demand endpoint natively with Zapier, because Zapier, while it has a lot of Gigasheet actions, does not have every single potential endpoint. That does not mean you could not use those endpoints in Zapier, and that's what I'm doing here. So for company data, I'm using the organization enrichment. For contact data, I'm using the email enrichment. Essentially, I'm passing either the email address to get back information about the contact, or a LinkedIn URL of the company to get back information about the company itself. RevenueBase is going to take this data and enrich it with all these other data points. And each data point comes in as its own column. But for these purposes, I only want to keep a few of them. Like I said, there's about 25 columns that come in. What I want to do here is I want to choose which columns to keep, and I want to delete the rest. So for the contact data, you'll see that I've got this action of, from this new sheet that's coming in, I want to keep these specific names. For company data, as this comes in, I'm keeping these specific names. So slightly different. Contacts and companies have slightly different fields I want to keep, but in general, it's the same action. It's this select columns by name action, which allows me to keep and reorder the columns I want, and the ones I don't, get rid of them. Next, I'm going to append those rows to the correct sheet. So I had to know, to do this, the file handle of each of the primary sheets. And the file handle is actually in the sheet's URL. So here's the actual company directory opened up in Gigasheet. You'll see it's 26,780 rows. This is the file handle, this alphanumeric string that starts 6408. So I'm going to need that as I build this. I've already done this for the company directory, but for the contacts, I'm going to come in here. I'm going to choose Gigasheet, the latest version. The event is going to be append from sheet. And press continue. I've authenticated. The handle of the source sheet is, of course, going to be this handle that's just come in, that we've just uploaded. And the target sheet, I'm actually just going to go over to custom and just type it in. I'm going to use that as the handle. Add unmatched columns, I'm going to say true. Case insensitive, I'm going to say true. And trim the column names, I'm going to say true, just so I don't have to deal with white space in the columns and so on. And I'll press continue. I'm going to skip the test for now and move forward. But I will say that I also have one final step, a move file to processed folder step. Again, I'm using the API to do this. I no longer need this newly uploaded sheet, but I don't want to delete it just yet, so I'm going to move it into this subfolder so I remember it's been run and allow me to make a decision with it later. So again, what's going on here is we're monitoring for a new sheet in Gigasheet, and then Zapier, based on the file name, be it company data or contact data, is either going to run the RevenueBase organization enrichment or the RevenueBase email enrichment. In both instances, it's going to choose which columns to keep, but depending on whether it's company or contact data, it will keep different columns. It's going to append those new rows to either the company directory, or in this case, it's the contact directory. And then it's going to move the file to the processed folder. So I'm going to press publish, and it will go live. So now I can go over to my library here, and this is the folder that we're monitoring. And I've got a couple files here that I could just add. So we're going to start with contacts. I'm going to upload contacts. Remember that the contact directory currently has 26,800 or so rows, 26,780 specifically, and what I'm uploading are 665. Now, Zapier should just take a minute, but it should catch that new file. It should enrich it automatically, keep the columns it cares about, and append it to the primary sheet. So you see that the column count just went up. That was the enrichment being done. The enrichment is happening. That column count just went down to 9 to match those that are already in that contact directory. And then the file was appended to the complete contact directory, and you saw that the rows went up to 27,400. We can go over to that. I see it goes from Debbie Smith down to Trevor Boone. Now if I open my company contact directory, it's got 27,445 rows, and if I go all the way to the end, it ends at Trevor Boone. So those files have been, that file was uploaded, automatically processed, the columns were kept that I care about, and then appended to my master sheet. That is the idea behind these Zapier workflows, being able to quickly automate and quickly handle routine and repetitive tasks that you find yourself doing over and over in a sheet. Gigasheets and Zapier working together make it very easy to automate that away so you can spend your time on higher value tasks. If you'd like to hear more about this, please reach out to us here at Gigasheet. You can sign up for free at gigasheet.com.